Welcome to the Microcap Brief. What if I told you that one of the most exciting, fastest-growing companies in recent memory, a company that became a cultural phenomenon, was a financial time bomb from day one, and that its collapse was so predictable, it led to executives pleading guilty to fraud? Today, we're not just performing a financial autopsy, we're investigating a crime scene. This is the story of MoviePass. In August 2017, Helios and Matheson, ticker HMNY, acquired MoviePass and dropped the price of its unlimited movie subscription to just $9.95 a month. The market went absolutely wild. In just 48 hours, they gained 150,000 new subscribers. By February 2018, they had 2 million, and by their peak in June 2018, over 3 million people had signed up. The story was a 10 out of 10. The stock skyrocketed. So with a business model that was clearly losing money on every customer, how did they convince investors to pour in hundreds of millions of dollars? They sold a seductive three-part story that many people believed. First, they claimed the real product wasn't movie tickets, it was data. The argument was that by collecting massive amounts of information on what movies people see, when and where, they could sell this valuable data to movie studios and advertisers. But as we detailed in our Phoenix Interactive turnaround case study, a press release story about future revenue is not the same as actual cash in the bank. A promise of a plan is not proof of a business. Second, they argued that with millions of subscribers, they could strong-arm the giant theater chains like AMC and Regal. They believed they could demand a cut of ticket and concession sales, threatening to block a theater from their app if they didn't comply. But this was a strategy based on hope, not a signed contract. It was a bet on a future partnership that the theaters had absolutely no incentive to accept. And finally, there was pure, simple momentum. The stock was flying, the subscriber numbers were incredible, and investors were gripped by a classic fear of missing out. But chasing hype is not a strategy, it's gambling. But as we know on this show, the story doesn't matter if the numbers don't work. And the numbers didn't just not work, they were a 5-alarm fire. For the 9 months ending September 30th, 2018, HMNY reported $205 million in revenue. But the cost to generate that revenue, the money they paid theaters for your tickets, was a staggering $424 million. Let me repeat that. They were losing over $2 for every $1 they brought in. Every new subscriber wasn't an asset. They were a guaranteed liability. This led to a catastrophic cash burn. By mid-2018, the company was hemorrhaging approximately $70 million per month. At that rate, their remaining cash gave them only weeks of survival. This is the exact scenario we covered in our episodes on going concern warnings. A catastrophic cash burn is the #1 trigger for that ultimate red flag. This forced the company's own auditor to issue that very warning, a going concern opinion. This is an official declaration that there was substantial doubt the company could survive. The ship's inspector had officially declared the ship was sinking. A company burning this much cash needs a constant fire hose of new money. HMNY turned to its shareholders, diluting them into oblivion. As we explained in our pizza analogy episode, they were frantically adding new slices to the pizza just to keep the lights on, filing to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. But as the dilution crushed the stock price, management resorted to a cosmetic fix. In July 2018, they executed a desperate 1-for-250 reverse stock split. If you own 25,000 shares, you woke up the next morning with just 100. In our episode on reverse splits, we teach you to ask why the split is needed. Here, it was to hide the failure of the business. The market wasn't fooled. The stock collapsed by 50% on the very first day. But here's the part the original story often misses. This wasn't just a failure, it was a fraud. As revealed by the SEC, executives knew the model was unsustainable while telling investors otherwise. They implemented secret tactics to prevent subscribers from actually using the service. And in January 2025, former CEO Ted Farnsworth pleaded guilty to securities fraud for making materially false statements about MoviePass's profitability. The end came swiftly. The service was shut down for good in September 2019. The final nail in the coffin came on January 28, 2020, when HMNY filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The stock was worthless. The collapse of MoviePass is the ultimate case study. It proves our core thesis: a hyped-up story can never defeat bad math. Your greatest defense as an investor is to ignore the hype and become a financial detective. Remember these red flags: catastrophic cash burn, the going concern warning, massive dilution, and desperate reverse splits. These weren't secrets. We have a deep dive episode on every single one of these topics. They were all fully disclosed in the company's public SEC filings. Your homework: pick a stock you own. As you learned in our Decoding Filings episode, go to its latest 10Q filing on the SEC's free Edgar database. Find the cash flow statement. Calculate its quarterly cash burn. How many months of survival does it have? Knowing that one number makes you a more informed investor. Leave your findings in the comments below. Thank you for listening to the Microcap Brief. Do your own research and invest wisely.